Hello, and welcome to another episode of the CompileSwift podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be talking a little bit about, showing your mistakes in public and not being afraid of that, and just generally sort of growing up as a developer in the public space. Now, where does this come from? Well, there seems to be this kind of myth around the fact that, you see these developers online, like myself, and we do podcasts and blog posts and videos and everything else, and it always goes right. Okay. This perception of you as the viewer that, boy, this guy nails it every time. And that can be rather intimidating to people sort of new to getting into development, and, this idea that, well, I can't show anything in public unless it's perfect. And that really simply is not true. I'm going to tell you right now, folks, you have no idea how many times I have to try and record a podcast, or how many times I have to record or just viciously edit a video, or just sweat over a blog post and edit multiple times to get it right. Especially when it comes to recording video, it never goes right first time. Now, I try to get it in one take so that it seems nice and fluid and smooth, but it's almost impossible, So the idea here being is I make plenty of mistakes. They just get edited out in post-production, right? And I kind of feel that's how it is with development too. You write the code and it doesn't work the way you expected, and you go back, start again, and then eventually the one that everybody sees in your Git commit or on a open source or in public somewhere is the one that works correctly. They don't see the 15 versions that didn't work properly. But don't be afraid to show that. I think, it's easy to forget that we learn far, far more from our mistakes and the things that we get wrong than the things that we do that we get right. Right? You write something in code or whatever it may be, and you do it and it works perfectly. You just forget about it and move on. There's nothing to analyze, nothing to go back, no problem to sweat through, no research or reading of documentation to solve it. You just move on and forget about it. Now, over time, of course, the more you do something, practice makes perfect, right? So that happens more and often than it, would at the beginning, especially if you're a new developer. And honestly, a lot of the time, I think that new developers are blessed because they don't have the baggage that we have of having known that, this particular function in a framework used to never work this way, or the history of it and everything else. I think that going in with kind of an open, blank page as a new developer is such a blessing. I really do. So I kind of envy new developers in many ways. But the idea here is, as a new developer coming in, you're going to sweat it. It's not going to work right. You're going to have to ask questions that, people quite wrongly are going to make fun of you for. And that's another thing. I hate it when people make fun of developers who don't know the answers to simple questions, because we've all been there. And I think it's real, sort of stupid arrogance and disrespect to make fun of someone who doesn't know something. And hopefully in a lot of my tutorials and everything else, I try to target them in a way to target as many people with as many experiences as possible. So don't be afraid to make mistakes and show them in public. If you was to go back and look through my Git histories and my repos, I cringe at some of the things I did that were just awful. But I leave them there to remind me that I've got better since then. And, so that other people can see, yeah, look, he did a really stupid thing here. Or, oh, look, this guy did the same thing I did and then later figured out it was wrong. But I leave them there because, it's like going back. If you could go back now and edit your schoolwork so that it all looked perfect and you absolutely nailed every exam. Yeah, that's great. It's called hindsight, right? And we have the experience now to go back and do that. But you need to show your learning. You remember at school when the math teacher would say, you've got to show the working, right? You've got to show how you worked out the result, not just the result, so that they could understand how you got there and that you truly understood the subject. And it's important that you show that to yourself as well. So part of that is, is to put out there the workings of the things that didn't work. I have read blog posts and listened to podcast episodes and videos And I am extremely grateful to very experienced developers who I have a massive amount of respect for, because they put out there, look, I did this project and it was a stupid idea and I did it badly and it went wrong. But I'm telling you about it so that you understand that I'm not perfect and that you don't have to be perfect either. So to every developer that's ever done that, thank you, bless you. I just have so much respect for you to stand up and say, look, I get shit wrong just like everybody else. This is super important that we're honest with ourselves, we're honest with everybody else, and we all acknowledge nobody gets it right first time. If someone tells you they've never made a mistake and it always works right, be very wary of that person and what they tell you, is what I'm saying there. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to share some thoughts on how I think that you can share your development learning with the rest of the world.
Time for a break.
When I was looking to get started creating my own podcast, I looked at lots of different services, and I found the one that worked best for me was Anchor.fm. And the reason being is they do everything for you. All you need to do is go to the app stores and download the mobile app, or you can go to their website at anchor.fm, that's ANCHOR.fm, and you can get it set up there. Basically, you just answer a few questions, and within minutes, you've got your own podcast stream set up, ready to go. They also handle lots of monetization options for you and take care of all of those details to get sponsorship for your podcast, and basically give you everything you need in one tool, either on the website or the mobile device to get started. So I would recommend going to anchor.fm today to get started creating your own podcast and sharing with the world.
Break time over.
Okay, so let's get into some of the ways that you can do this growing up in public and share this experience with other people. Now, first of all, the things to consider here are the ones that you feel comfortable with. Now, by that, I mean not everybody wants to record video or audio, for example, but you could record podcasts just like this one, right? Anchor.fm is a great way to get started. They take care of all the details for you. You could also put videos up on YouTube, or you could just, make course videos. You could also put videos up on Vimeo. But I think that the more familiar one for most people will be to make blog posts. Now, you do not have to be some kind of super web guru to do blog posts. You do not have to set up your own website and, have a fancy looking theme and you be worried that, but I'm just getting started, so there's hardly any content. Don't sweat the details. The easiest way in the world is to find one of these many, many platforms out there that are going to take care of all the details for you, and you can just start writing your posts. The one that I like is dev.to, dev.to. And there's a couple of reasons, and they're not sponsoring me or anything. This is just a one that I use, and I just think it's fantastic. The first thing is they take care of all the details. You go in there, there's just a simple editor. You write your blog post and you hit publish. It's that simple. The second thing is their environment and their platform is all about positive thought, positive support. So, it's very frowned upon in fact, I've never found a negative comment or an offensive comment, things like that. And that's part of the reason that I like it, is not only does it help everybody from all levels, but there's just a very positive attitude about anything anybody posts there. So if you're not looking to get into your own website, which I still think is the best way at the end of the day, but to get started with this is to go to something like dev.to and just sign up. It's free, and just start making blog posts. And the other thing is there is a massive amount of data content on that site as well. If you are looking for some solution to some problem, I'm going to bet you're going to find something there to help you. I have solved so many problems by just finding posts by people, good people who want to share their content and make life easier for you on there as well. Obviously there are other resource sites like, Stack Overflow and things like that. But my point here is that you can be the one that contributes content to dev.to as well. There are many other platforms. Of course, you can set up your own WordPress site, or there are many hosted WordPress sites, WordPress.com. You can go in there, set up your own site as well using their hosting systems and everything else, and just start posting there. The real key takeaway here is remove the burden of creating the platform and maintaining the platform and just focus on putting the content out there. Give you an idea here. When I first started blog posting, gosh, I can't even remember how many years ago it was. The whole idea for me was there was two key things here. One, to give back to all the communities that had helped me with my career over the years. And two, to make blog posts that actually served as an online kind of learning notebook for myself. And that's what I think is important in this conversation here, is don't focus necessarily on making a blog post or making content for other people, and think of it more as a journal online for yourself. You hear people say about developer journals and that all the time. It sounds really fancy. It's really just making notes for yourself for the future, or you keeping record of what you've learned. And a blog post or something like that is the perfect way to do this. It doesn't have to be fancy. You do not have to be an expert writer or video producer or audio recorder, any of these things. You just have to have the passion and desire to do it. So I hope these tips that I've given you here make you think about, okay, I'm going to go out there and do it. If you decide to start putting, stuff online, if this podcast has inspired you to start putting stuff online, reach out and tell me, because I want to support you. And I also want to know that I'm making a positive difference in the developer world. You can do that. You can go to CompileSwift.com. You can also reach out to me on Twitter at CompileSwift. I desperately would love to hear that I have helped, move you forward in a positive way, because that would be such a massive inspiration to me to just keep going and doing what I'm doing. And I'll be honest, everything I've said to you in this episode has got me to where I am today. And that's why I'm doing this podcast episode right now, because it has all served to convince me that sharing everything out in public and not being worried about judgment, concern, or how stupid it may sound to other people, and just putting it out there has really grown my confidence and really grown my platforms to make me the developer as good or as bad as I am, but it keeps me moving forward, and I hope it does the same for you. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Take care of yourselves. I will speak to you in the next episode.